Vanakkam, Namaste and Sunny Bonani. Welcome to Mzansi's favorite Hindu magazine show, Sunday Sadhana, right here on SABC2. Today is an exciting day for our country as we celebrate 20 years of democracy in a rainbow land. And our special lineup today reflects on the significance this freedom has brought us as we visit the historic Cato Manor and also feature the Satyagraha House in Johannesburg, where Gandhiji himself once lived. Cato Manor is an area synonymous with the cultural and political heritage of the Indian community since the times of indenture. In 1959, Cato Manor was declared a whites-only zone under the Group Areas Act, but despite the forced removals, temples in the area survived and are still functional today. Sunday Sadhana takes a trip through time today and examines the tenacity and sheer faith that sustained these temples through the dark days of apartheid.
The Cato Manor community lived in harmony, worked in harmony, enjoyed social activity in harmony, and more importantly, participated in religious and cultural festivals in harmony as well.
In 1905, the first temple was washed away. When they built a second one, and in 1917, that washed away. But the people never gave up. In 1918, they got together and built the Gangayaman temple on higher ground, out of wood and iron. And that building is still standing there. In 1934, the committee started the construction of this Sivan temple.
Divine warmth that is generated in these old temples is unequaled. It is blood, sweat and tears that have gone into what you see today. Cato Manor would probably have represented the most integrated community setup in apartheid South Africa. It was not just Indians and whites that were together, it was blacks as well.
One of the major traumas Cato Manor suffered was the 1949 riots. Homes were burnt, people were killed, shops were looted, and one of the places that they sought refuge was this temple.
It is a fact that it was generated by the racist white colonials who were deliberately trying to cause a friction between African and Asian.
In 1958, when the group area came into being, these temples were all threatened.
The Hindu community was one of the major victims of group areas.
When the area was being redesigned, there was a road planned to go through this temple.
The moment they couldn't get rid of you or get rid of your property, they would direct a road to go through your property, and that would give them the right to immediately expropriate. And they tried to do that here as well, and we stopped them.
With the depopulation of this area, the congregation of devotees dwindled. But in spite of that, all the major festivals were still observed during all that time.
When Cato Manor was redeclared for occupation by our people, we had a Thanksgiving prayer here, and we said it is the power of the temple that drew the people together.
"20 years later, after freedom, a lot has changed. When President Mandela ensured in our constitution that religion was given respect, dignity, but more importantly, a right. Hinduism got a right in our constitution which never existed before.
thank you for joining us. Gandhiji played a pivotal role in South Africa's struggle against oppression, and the Satyagraha House in Johannesburg stands proud and tall among the many monuments around the country that pay tribute to the Mahatma and his contribution to our freedom. Sunday Sadhana visited this museum with a difference, where guests can actually live in and feel the simple living and higher thinking.
At the time in 1908 when Gandhi and Kallenbach lived here, was located in the farm of Orange Grove. It was an open veldt and there was nothing around it. So when you're here today in the middle of this very busy metropolis with Louis Botha and the cars rushing past, this still somehow feels like an oasis. It still feels like it brings back some of that spirit of calmness that would have existed at the time that Gandhi and Kallenbach lived here.
When you come here, you are not in Johannesburg. You are somewhere else, you know. And we can feel this harmony, you know, in this house. And now we have just a small problem now. When the people come to visit us, they didn't want to leave, you know. They want to stay here in this house because of the energy, because of the atmosphere.
The very first principle, well, that we worked with in the making of this place that really conformed, I think, with Gandhi and later Kallenbach's principles was that of simplicity. The interesting thing about all the spaces of Satyagraha House is they are both functional spaces like dining rooms and lounges, but they're also museum. So the museum aspects have been integrated into the living spaces. There's no air conditioning in the rooms, so you're going into a natural environment. There's no heavy curtaining, so the natural light is very important. There is actually a natural stream that runs around the house. It introduces the sound of water, the sound of nature. It brings it into the space. The books are a very important part of Satyagraha House. There is a very wide selection of books on both Gandhi and Kallenbach. We also have printed a collection of letters between Gandhi and his colleagues and Gandhi and Kallenbach. The letters are a window into their worlds, and you sit in the lounge and read the exchanges that took place between them, the everyday exchanges, and they're quite extraordinary in the insights they give you into these two men. The other aspect, of course, when they would have been living here, they would have had a vegetable garden. And Satyagraha House runs the vegetable garden as it would have been and serve food from the vegetable garden. So when you're eating here, you're eating with the food that is actually grown here. Home cooked, homemade, homegrown. Guests are prepared to enter into this world. They come here, they see this dining room that we're sitting in, and they read about the principles and ethics of diet that Gandhi writes about, and they enter into that world and into that spirit, and that's enticing. You're eating in the style or with the principles of Gandhi and Kallenbach in mind. So what was very important for Gandhi was a very simple diet.
Although we serve vegetarian food, but it's very hearty and still enjoyable. And it gives you that sense that you don't miss the junk food, but you're eating healthy, but yet it's very tasty. Because a lot of people, they think vegetarian is all boiled vegetables, which look very horrible, but it's quite different. It has given me a different perspective.
The movement of the Satyagraha, it was born here in this house, between Kallenbach and Gandhi. But 100 years after, you can't imagine that 100 years after, we have the same atmosphere. We have people come from Germany, and people come from India, and people come from America, and from South Africa, and we stay all together, you know. And you have here you have the Rabban, and here you have the synagogue, and here we have Satyagraha in the middle, you know, and Muhammad in the middle. So it's amazing, you know, and we live everything is okay.
When Gandhi says it was in South Africa that he became who the world knew him to be in later years, that as a South African person makes me feel incredibly inspired about what this country offered Gandhi and what Gandhi offered this country.
There is something different. I don't know what. I can't tell you, I can't imagine that, but there is something in this house. I can't speak about that, but I can feel it, you know. We didn't need to speak English or French, whatever, to feel this atmosphere.
In true Mzansi style, I will say it in my language, that re batla ho amohela motho kaofela hore o mang o tswa kae, re le amohela kaofela ntlong ya Mahatma Gandhi.
As quoted in the Bhagavad Gita, those who have conquered themselves live in peace, alike in cold and heat, pleasure and pain, praise and blame. To such people, a clod of dirt, a stone, and gold are the same. Because they are impartial, they rise to great heights. And this indeed is the story of our rainbow.